Okay, so the last problem we did was factoring out a negative. So let's see what happens when there's not a negative in front of the x, but there is a number in front of the x besides 1. So remember, most of the time when you have a positive 1, then you can do completing the square. But what if you have 2x squared plus 4x minus 3 is equal to 0? Now, in this case, we don't have a positive 1 in front of the x. We have a positive 2. So therefore, move C, 2x squared plus 4x plus blank is equal to 3 plus blank. Now we've got to factor out a 2. Well, that's not a problem when the middle number is even. That's not a problem. So factor out a 2, and that's going to leave you with x squared plus 2x plus blank is equal to 3 plus 2 times blank. And remember that pink is there because whatever you factor out here, you got to multiply by this blank over here. Now that now that I've got the coefficient of this x to be a positive 1, I can complete the square. So 2 divided by 2. I'm sorry. Yeah. Factor out of 2, that becomes okay. And that's equal to 1 squared, which is 1. So now I've got 2 times x plus 1, quantity squared, is equal to 5. So at this point, I can write my vertex. My vertex is -1 and -5. Or I can write it in vertex form. F of x is equal to 2 times x plus 1, quantity squared, minus 5. And then get my vertex by taking the opposite, the horizontal shift of the, that'd be -1, and just bring this down, be -5. Either way, I get the vertex of -1, -5. And don't forget, your y-intercept is up here at the top. Your y-intercept is -3. So y-intercept 0, -3. Vertex is -1, -5. So all we need now is our x-intercepts, which we'll go over here and solve for the x-intercepts. So I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. That's going to give me x plus 1, quantity squared, is equal to 5/2. Take the square root of both sides. X plus 1 is equal to the square root of 5 over the square root of 2. Well, of course, we don't like the radical in the denominator. So, of course, we need to rationalize. And y'all have had Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So we're going to rationalize. So I'm going to multiply by, let me use a yellow pen. I'm going to multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. And that's going to give me x plus 1 is equal to the square root of 10 over 2. And that's 2 halves. So I'm going to have a final answer of x is equal to positive or negative square root of 10. And bring over the positive 2 over 2. That'd be minus 2 over 2. Now that's the simplified version of the X-Intercepts. If you wanted to write it in terms of the homework and the test, negative square root of 10 minus 2 over 2, comma, positive square root of 10 minus 2 over 2. That's how you write it in the homework and test, because they're going to want exact answers, meaning radicals. And then to sketch your graph, well, what is the square root of 10? Well, the square root of 10 is between the square root of 9, which is 3, and the square root of 16, which is 4. Well, since 9, square root of 9 is 3, that's 3.1. So positive or negative, 3.1 minus 2 over 2. Well, $3.10 minus 2 is $1.10, and half of $1.10 is 55 cents. So 55 cents is one X-intercept. Negative $3.10 minus 2 is minus $5.10, and half of minus $5.10 is minus $2.55. Now, have you ever noticed the way I do things? I turn it into money. And if you turn these numbers into money, you can figure it a whole lot easier, unless you can't make change at a cash register, which there are a lot of people that can't do that because of our K through 12 system pushing the calculators and not critical thinking. So students naturally can't come out of high school and make change or spell mom backwards. All right. Question, gripe, complaint. So let's draw her up. Let's see what this one looks like. So here's our graph. We've got a y-intercept of 0, negative 3. I don't know if you can tell that, but that's blue. That's why I don't use blue very much. It looks kind of like black. Okay, our X-intercepts, I'll do those in green, fluorescent green, because green looks like black also. 0.55, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 0.55, which is right here, and negative 2.55, which is right there. And our vertex, I'll do that in an orange. Our vertex is negative 1 and negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. So our parabola looks like this. So our domain for all our parabolas, unless instructed by the directions or the teacher, is all real numbers. Our range is from negative 5 to infinity. Decreasing from negative infinity to negative 1, and increasing from -1 to positive infinity. Line of symmetry, x is equal to -1. It always goes through the vertex. X is equal to -1. That's line of symmetry. Again, you should be fluent. If you're still sticking on some of this, then you're not fluent. You need to be fluent. You need to be able to go from this to that. And that's probably a 5 or a 6. Well, let's say it's a 5. Now, what's the difference between a 5 and a 6? Well, just one number. Questions on this one? All right, no questions means everybody knows what I'm doing. So what's the difference in this one and a 6? Well, instead of a 4 right here, there's going to be a 3. Oh my gosh, that makes a fraction. Yep, which will disqualify most of y'all from doing the problem. So let's go ahead and try it. Same type problem. 2x squared plus 3x minus 3 is equal to 0. So it's the same exact problem, except this is a 3 instead of an even number. All right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to get started on it. You don't have to finish it. Do as much as you can in 2 minutes. Or you can just sit there and be a failure, one of the two. Well, I was very proud of Georgia this weekend, and Texas A&M ain't out of it yet. Texas A&M whooped up on on Florida, didn't they? Yeah, I believe they did, Hubert. Yep, they sure did.
Yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, I was surprised in Texas A&M. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because Jimbo Fisher is a great coach, and he's going to do well down there. I think he's going to make that team a pillar in that conference. And Georgia just did. Tennessee kind of hung with them the first half. But then I don't know what happened in the locker room, but good gracious, after halftime, that defense was like a set of jaws. I mean, they wouldn't let Tennessee move.
I didn't watch that.
Say again?
Clemson won as well, 42-17 against Miami.
Well, that's good. But we won't be able to see what Clemson's got until they get to playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they're a pretty good team, but they're just in a weak conference, just like Ohio State's in a weak conference. I can't say that about Georgia or Florida, but I just think the SEC has the toughest conference. I don't know, between the Big Ten and the ACC, I don't know which one's tougher. I really don't, because in the Big Ten, you got Ohio State and Wisconsin and Michigan. And in ACC, you've got Clemson, of course, and you've got sometime this year, you're going to have Miami and North Carolina that are pretty good. But last year, Virginia was pretty good, and they suck this year. So, I mean, it's just, I hope one day we can have a strong Big Ten and ACC conference. But I don't know how you fix that. There is no answer, really. I wish Florida State would get better, too, so there'd be a little bit of competition. But they say Miami's coming back a little bit. They didn't look like they were on cylinders. They looked like they were on 6, but they didn't look like they were on 8. And I'm not counting Texas A&M out yet. Everybody says it's going to be Georgia and Alabama or Georgia and Clemson, and I'm like, no, I'm not tight. I'm not counting A&M out yet. So
I thought you weren't going to watch the games.
Well,
couldn't help it.
I couldn't help it because there was nothing else on.
Oh.
I don't watch NFL. NFL can go to hell for all I care. I don't watch NFL at all. I haven't watched the NFL in 4 or 5 years. I will turn it. I will not watch the NFL.
Watch NBA championship?
No, hell with them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't watch any. If you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And that's all I got to say. You got problems with something, you take it up and you protest the problem. You don't protest the flag that gives you the right to protest. No, I'm sorry, you don't do that. And yes, I'm a Southern veteran terrorist, so I guess you can just say I'm a little bit biased. You're damn right I'm biased. You don't protest what gives you the freedom to protest. All right, so that's close to 5 minutes. So let's go with 2x squared plus 3x plus blank is equal to 3 plus blank. Okay. Okay, like everybody's going to get that right. So now let's factor out the 2. Bogged down. 2, that'd be x squared plus 3/2 x plus blank is equal to 3 plus 2 times blank. And since I didn't use my pink pen, I'm going to take my pink highlighter out. And a lot of people say, good gracious, you do that with every single problem. Yes, I do. Why? So that way you won't forget when you're doing your homework, when you factor out that 2, you got to put it over here. And hopefully some of y'all are catching on to it and not forgetting. So I'm going to put a baby step in here because I think sometimes I need to. I got a fraction here, so I'm going to take this fraction. I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. 3/2 multiplied by 1/2, square it. 3 over 4 squared is 9/16. Now, some people appreciate this baby step right here. And the reason they appreciate it is because they were told to do it on a calculator when they were, in whatever grade. And that's why y'all can't do, and I mean y'all, I mean students, they can't do completing the square. Completing the square is based on what? Basic math. I mean, 3 over 2 divided by 2, that's a what, 6th grade?
Yeah, I never.
What's the question? Somebody talking, got a question?
Go get it tested real quick here.
Okay.
I can't hear you, Mr. Smith. What'd you say?
Well, if you got it, I know for a fact that's what I had.
Say it one more time.
Yeah, I was.
He's basically like where I'm at now with it though, because he went and got tested a couple days ago. Because he called me Wednesday saying he was sick, and I was like, "Oh no way, I am too." And then he went and got tested.
I think you want to mute yourself, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, are you muted? Oh, okay. So the reason I put that in there is because some people have forgotten how to do basic math. And 3/2 divided by 2/1 multiplied by 1/2 is still basic math, 3/4. And then 3/4 squared is 9/16. But what happens is students forget how to do this. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to clean this up over here. We'll do that in another color. Let's use orange. So 2 will bust that 16 into an 8. And I'm going to change that to 24/8 plus 9/8. Y'all check my math, make sure I didn't mess up anywhere. So my final outcome of doing all that transitional work will give us 2. Shortcut number 1 is equal to, what's that, 24, what is that, 33/8. Did y'all check me? Looks everything look good? So I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to write down the information because I don't want to clutter this up. So I'm going to go up here and in blue, I'm going to write down my y-intercept is 0, -3. And my vertex is -3/4, comma, -33/8. And my f of x, my vertex form is f of x is equal to 2 times x plus 3/4 quantity squared minus 33/8. Okay, so that's all the information we got right now. Now I'm going to solve it. And I'm going to divide by 2. And x plus 3/4 quantity squared is equal to 33/16. Take the square root of both sides. And that's going to give me x plus 3/4 is equal to the square root of 33/4. X is equal to positive or negative square root of 33 minus 3/4. Now, I want you to go ahead and rewrite this on your own notes. It's going to be -33 minus 3/4, comma, positive square root of 33 minus 3/4. Please write that down in your notes because that's the way the homework and the test are going to want it. Negative square root of 33 minus 3/4, comma, positive 33 minus positive square root of 33 minus 3/4.
Does it matter if the negative or positive comes first?
No, it doesn't. But which way do we read?
Left to right.
And what comes first?
Left.
Negative. Negative comes first. That's
Okay.
why I always do the negative first.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. So what is the square root of 33? Well, I'm going to go over here. The square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 36 is 6. 6.5 is, oh, sorry, 5.5 is in the middle. 25 to 36 is 11, so that'd be square root of 30. So I need the square root of 33. So I think that's going to be 5.75. Somebody check me. Positive or negative 5.75 minus 3 over 4. So somebody check, what is the square root of 33? Did somebody check?
And my calculator just says square root of 33. It doesn't give me decimal.
You got to hit second and enter. Or raise 33 to the 0.5 power. 33 raised to the 0.5 power. 5.75. Lord, it's a miracle. What about me? I did that in my head without having to use a calculator. Isn't that a miracle? And I can make change too. All right. So what's 5.75? What's $5.75 minus $3? $2.75. And $2.75 divided by 4, well, $2.80 divided by 4 is 0.8, right? 4 times 8 is, let's see, 28, right? So I'm going to say it's 0.8, right around 0.8. Somebody can do the math and tell me if it's 0.78 or whatever, but it's going to be around 0.8. Negative 5.75 minus 3 is negative 8.75, and that's negative 8.8. 4 will go into 8.8 2.2 times, so that'd be negative 2.2. So if y'all want to check me, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my calculator, and I'm going to do 5.75 minus 3 divided by 4. 0.69 or 0.7. That's what I wanted to say, 0.7, not 0.8. That's 32. It's 0.7. I'm sorry, I was trying to think of 28. Okay, so 0.7. Now I'm going to do the other. Negative 5.75 minus 3 divided by 4, 2.2. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing a lot of this stuff in my head is because I'm trying to show you why we use completing the square. Do we use completing the square because it's complicated? No. We use completing the square because you can do the math in your head. Unless you didn't get your money's worth in K through 12. If you got your money's worth in K through 12, then you are following me and doing this without any problem. So let's draw her up. I've got a y-intercept of 0, negative 3. I've got a x-intercept of negative 2.2 and 0.7. And I've got a vertex of negative 3/4, which is right about in there, and negative 4 1/8. And our graph looks like domain equals all real numbers. Range is from negative 33/8 to infinity. Decreasing from negative infinity to negative 3/4 and increasing from negative 3/4 to infinity. And the line of symmetry goes through the vertex. X is equal to negative 3/4. And that's the number 5/6. The first one we did was a 5. The second we did is a 6. Well, what's left? Well, now we're going to do one where the answer doesn't come out to be nice. We're going to start off with a number 1 or a number 2, but we're going to make it into a different problem just by one sign. X squared plus 2x minus 8 or minus 9 is equal, no, plus 9 is equal to 0. Okay, now I want you probably will be able to do most of this problem. Okay, so I'm going to give you, how many minutes should I give you to get it done? Anybody want to guess? Okay, I appreciate y'all's input. All right, we'll give you 4 minutes. Miss Hollister, you've been awful quiet today. You're not sick, are you?
No, I'm not sick. I'm just like not in the library, but I had to do an advising call today, so I couldn't talk for a while.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to take your class next semester for sure.
Oh, that reminds me. I need
For
to show
1:30.
y'all. I need to show y'all that. Oh, shoot. I need to pull up my classes for y'all before the end of the class so you can see my 130. So y'all can see the CRN number. Okay, that gives you close to 4 minutes. And in fact, 4 minutes is right now, so. And if you got mostly through the problem, that's a good sign. That means that you're, coming along with completing the square just fine. If you got stopped with the negative, then that's okay, because that's why I'm covering this problem. When I cover completing the square, I cover levels 1 through 10, which covers just about every different scenario you're going to have with a quadratic. So this is about the third different type of obstacle you're going to come over or jump over with completing the square, and that is when you have a negative discriminant. So x squared plus 2x plus blank is equal to -9 plus blank. Now, of course, we know that our y-intercept is 0, positive 9. That's our y-intercept. And I'm going to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 squared is 1 squared, which is 1. And I get x plus 1 squared is equal to -8. So my vertex is -1, 8. And I can rewrite that as f of x is equal to x plus 1 quantity squared plus 8. And I'm going to solve it now, and there's where the problem comes in. Square root and square root. And you can't have this. So a big pink X goes through there, because you can't take the square root of a negative number. So you just quit the problem and say cannot be done. No, what you say is no X-intercepts. Now I'm going to highlight in yellow this number. Now before today, or before completing the square, that number was called the radicand. Okay? Before you got into quadratics, that number was called the radicand. Okay? Radicand. R-A-D-I-C-A-N-D, I think. Okay, now it's not called that anymore. It's called the discriminant. It's called the discriminant now. If I spelled it right. Discriminant. I think that's right. Now it's called the discriminant. And in quadratics, if you have the square root of a positive number, that means you're going to have 2 X-intercepts. If you have the square root of 0, that means you're going to have 1 X-intercept. And if you have the square root of a negative, that means you have no X-intercepts. So the discriminant tells you how many solutions or how many X-intercepts you're going to have. Here we have a discriminant of negative. That tells you you're not going to have any X-intercepts. Then you just quit the problem. No, you got to write it in terms of I. I is equal to the square root of -1, and I squared is equal to -1. Is that super important for you to know? Yes. It gets a pink highlighter all the way through it, because that is something that you should have learned in Algebra 2 or 102, depending on which one you took. So I've got to write this in terms of I. So we're going to do that. So x plus 1 is equal to the square root of 8 times the square root of -1. And the square root of -1 is I. So x plus 1 is equal to the square root of 8 times I. Now that square root of 8 can be written as a perfect square broken up. And I'm really not worried about that, but you should be able to do that. So x plus 1 is equal to the square root of 4 times the square root of 2 times I. And that's going to be x plus 1 is 2I times the square root of 2. And then x is equal to 2I square root of 2 minus 1. Now, like I said, this is the way they're going to want the answer in your homework and your test if you run into one of these. In fact, they want you to write it like this. Negative I, negative 1 plus 2 square root of 2I. That's another way to write it. So how do you draw this one? Well, you don't draw it with x-intercepts because it doesn't cross the x-axis. So that means it's floating up in one of the quadrants. Now, how do I know it's floating? Well, I don't know that. I'm just saying it's floating because it doesn't have 2 x-intercepts. So if you're going to draw this one, you only got 2 points. And you got to know that it's a positive, so it's concave up, and it's 1, so it's normal. So with that being said, we will draw this one. And my y-intercept is 0, 9. And my vertex is negative 1 and 8. And we know it's opening upward. And we know it's not crossing the x-axis. And we know it's a regular parabola. So the domain is all real numbers. If you miss the domain on this test, don't what? Don't tell anybody. Because if you miss the domain on this test, that's basically hanging a sign around your neck that says you're non-sentient. Range from from 8 to infinity. Decreasing, negative infinity to negative 1, and increasing from negative 1 to infinity. And the line of symmetry, x is equal to negative 1. Now we've just done a 7. Now what's the rest of them? Well, the rest of them is just a conglomeration of negatives and fractions. So let's do 8 or 9. And some of y'all could not even do complete the square when we started. All right, here we go. Negative 2. I'm sorry. I just messed that up. Negative 2x squared. Let's see if I can do this right now. Negative 3x plus 7 is equal to 0. All right, I'm going to give you, well, actually, change this to a negative. Okay, negative 2x squared minus 3x minus 7 is equal to 0. Give you 4 minutes. And that will ascertain whether you're a failure in life or not. Hopefully y'all got that written down. I'm going to go do something right quick while y'all are working. Let's see, where is that? Free COVID testing event. Oh my God. Now shut up, Hubert. Just shut up. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut, Hubert. Don't say nothing.
You have a work email.
Hubert, I'm so glad that 1:30 is not an 8 a.m.
Yep, I am too. But make sure that y'all make a note of this. For those of you that need to know, there's my 1:30 right there. CRN number 42919. So make sure you write that down, especially if you're going to take the preceding class to this class, which is 1:30. I can tell you right now, you won't regret it. But you may regret it if you don't take it. That's all I'm going to say.
1:30 follows it, or
Say again?
so after this class, 1:30 follows it?
Yes, for most of you, ag, let's see, ag, business, accounting, management, criminal justice, most of those take the math 130 and the math 230.
Okay.
So that's the class after 109.
Okay, thank you.
So there it is right there. And it will be taught just like this one in the sync format.
Okay.
So there you go. All righty. And y'all have had 5 minutes. So let's go back to the question. And the question, I'm getting back to the question. Where is it? All right, so here we go. Negative 2x squared minus 3x plus blank is equal to 7 plus blank. I'm going to factor out a 2. That's going to give me x squared plus 3 halves x plus blank is equal to 7 plus negative 2 times blank. And I'm going to take my pink highlighter. And my hand is frozen. There we go. And I'm going to do the baby step in here for those that need it. 3 halves divided by 2. 3 halves divided by 2. Okay, so that's going to give me negative 2 x plus 3/4 quantity squared is equal to, let's go up here and do this. I'll do it in orange. That 2 is going to take out that 16 and make an 8. And 8 times 7 is 56, isn't it? So this is going to be 56/8 minus 9/8. Is 8 times 7 56? I think it is, isn't it? 6 times 8 is 48, I believe. So, yeah. Appreciate it, class. 56 minus 9 is going to be what? 47/8?
Yeah.
And now we've got, let's go ahead and write down our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is 0, negative 7. I'm not going to write f of x is equal. I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to write the vertex. So that's going to be negative 3/4, comma, negative 47/8. That's our vertex. Do we have x-intercepts? No, we do not, because when I divide by that negative 2, what does it change as 47/8 into? Changes it into a negative. And I'm going to do that in pink just so you will see it, because you need to see it. Where is my damn Russians? Stole my pen. Divided by negative 2. Divided by negative 2. And that negative 2 right here makes you not have x-intercepts. So that's going to be x plus 3/4 quantity squared is equal to, well, that's a 2 over 1 multiplied by negative 1/2 is negative 47 over 16. Now I'm going to go to the next page to finish it. And of course, my cats have messed up the blinds, so the blinds are open and that's messed up. So I'm gonna have to fix that too. All right, so I'm gonna copy that over to the next page. So x plus 3/4 quantity squared is equal to negative 47/16. And finish it if you haven't finished it. So I'll fix that blind. And that's going to be the square root of both sides. Say again.
I have a question.
Okay.
So you had 47/8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And then you divide it by -2. Right?
Right here. Okay. What's your question?
You multiplied it by the. Are you multiplying it?
Right here. Dividing by a fraction. What do you do when you divide by a fraction?
Multiply the reciprocal.
There you go.
Okay.
Now, you have just proven my theory right. See, we forget about this stuff. And that's why, you've got to be fluent. And you're remembering that when you divide by a fraction, you multiply by the what? The reciprocal.
Okay, I didn't see that you were changing it to a fraction. So when you so -2 on the, like the other opposite side, and then so you're getting rid of it, so you divide by 2. But when it comes to the other side, I didn't understand that you were making it a fraction.
Well, yeah, whenever you divide, you're basically dividing by 2/1. Okay?
Yeah.
Like right here, I changed it to 2/1. I always do that when I'm showing students because the whole number is always over 1. Always. So 2 is always over 1. So there we go. And that cancels. And this comes up here. And don't feel bad because a lot of students, Mr. Abdallah, a lot of students have that same hang up, whether it's you just don't see it on one side or they just don't know. So here we go. X plus 3/4 is equal to the square root of 47 square root of -1 over 4. And remember, the square root of -1 is equal to I. So I'm going to rewrite this. X plus 3/4 is equal to the square root of 47 over 4. And then that I, and I'm going to have to break open because that pink highlighter is going dead on me. Ta-da! So I'm going to open up my new pink highlighter, my pink marker. And that will be I. And we're going to retire this marker. It's going in the pile over here, dead markers. Okay, so now we just have to rewrite and make it in the way that the homework and the test want it. So X is equal to -3 plus or minus square root of 47I over 4. Now the homework does not like that I in the back, so they'll put it in the front and they'll say X is equal to negative 3 plus or minus I times the square root of 47 over 4. Now, this is the condensed way of writing it. They may say negative 3 plus I square root of 47 over 4 positive 3, negative 3 plus minus 47 over 4. They may want it like that. I'm just letting you know that this is the condensed way, the simplified way. This is the expanded way. So you better pay attention whenever you get to one like this on your homework or your test. Make sure you make a note of how they want it written, because chances are that's going to be the way they want it on the other homework problems. So whether it's condensed or whether it's expanded.
Is that a positive 3 and a positive I or a negative I?
So I read negative 3 plus I, negative 3 minus I. So negative 3 plus I, negative 3 minus I. It's supposed to be a minus. I screwed it up. So I'm sorry. Negative 3 minus I. I'll rewrite it over. Negative 3 minus I square root 47 over 4. Now, again, we don't have much. We don't have X-intercepts, so we can forget about drawing the X-intercepts. So let's go ahead and draw this one based on what we do have. We've got a y-intercept of negative 7. And a vertex of negative 3/4. And 8 will go into 47. What, 6 times? Be 5 times 5 and 7/8. So negative 5 and 7/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, it's opening which way? Downward. So our domain is all real numbers. Range is from negative infinity to negative 47/8. Increasing from negative infinity to negative 3/4. Decreasing from negative 3/4 to positive infinity. And of course, the line of symmetry always goes through the vertex. So our line of symmetry, x is equal to negative 3/4. And that's about an 8. So what does a 9 or a 10 look like? Well, this would be a 9 or a 10. So the first thing you do, 1/2. All right, start on. Factor out that negative 1/2. And most of you will probably just quit. Give you a couple more minutes.
If I got 9 over 256, that's probably wrong.
I have no earthly idea, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and try it. Well, I'm going to factor out a -1/2, but I'm going to do a baby step in here because we're dealing with fractions. So I'm going to divide -1/2. That's going to give us x squared. But right here, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say, because we are dividing, I'm going to say 3/4 divided by 1/2. Well, if I divide, oh, sorry, it'd be negative. If I divide, which that's what I'm doing when I'm factoring, then that means I'm going to multiply by -2/1, which that 2 will cancel that with a 2, and I get -3/2. So minus 3/2 x plus blank is equal to 3/5 plus, and you got it, pink, -1/2 times blank. Now, what did I just do? Well, I factored. When you factor, you divide. -1/2 divided by -1/2 is 1. 3/4 divided by -1/2 is -3/2. So now I'm ready to complete the square. So now I'm going to take another color, which I'm going to take turquoise. I guess this is, no, this is light blue. I really don't have a turquoise, do I? Yeah, I do. There's a turquoise. I guess this is turquoise. It's about the closest I'm going to get. So I'm going to take 3/2, divide by 2/1. So then square it. That's 1/2, which is equal to 3/4. Squared is 9/16.
Gmail.
That's really light green, but it's good enough for a different color. So now I'm ready to move on. I factored out a -1/2, that's the orange. And then I took that 3/2 and I completed the square. Now on the left-hand side, I get -1/2 times x minus 3/4 quantity squared. And on the right-hand side, well, I don't know yet because I've got to see what happens on the right-hand side. That 2 and that 16 make a 32. So that's -9/32. This is -9/32. And I've got to get a common denominator of 32 and 5. Well, that ain't going to be pretty. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page. And I'm going to find the common denominator of 5 and 32, which I already know what it is, but I'm going to. So 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and sometimes 13. Well, I want all ones, so that's going to be a 5. That's a 1, 32, 2, 1, 16, 2, 1, 8, 2 to the third, 1, and 1. So 2 to the fifth, 32 times 5. That's what I thought it was. 32 times 5 is going to be what? 160. So 160 is my common denominator. Of course, some of y'all have no idea what I just did because you were told to use a calculator. All right, so that's going to be 5. We'll go into 160. Well, 5. We'll go into 160 32 times. 32 times 3 is 96. 32 will go into 165 times. 5 times 9 is 45. So 96 minus 45, somebody tell me, is it 51? 51 over 160. Somebody check my math on the 96 minus 45. All right, so now we've got our problem to where we can go to the next page and finish it.
But I have a quick question.
Okay, yes.
All right, so, all right, going back further a little up, you had -1/2 on the other side, right? And so you do the same thing the other side, so you would divide it, right? Wouldn't it be -1/2 divided by -1/2 to cancel it out, and then it goes to the other side, right? Am I just
Remember,
totally
I factored out a -1/2. That means I divided. I pulled it out, -1/2. I pulled it out. -1/2 divided by -1/2 is 1. Let me put a 1 there. And then -3/4 divided by -1/2 is 3/2. Is that what you're talking about?
No, like on the last problem, you had -2, and then to get rid of -2, you divide it by itself, and then what you do one side, you have to do the other. So you divide it by you did -2 divided by like 36 over or 46 over 8 or something like that. But you multiply the reciprocal. But you didn't do that here. You just multiply it. Yeah, you see, look, because over here you
divide by 2. I didn't divide by 2 on this problem. This is dividing by 2. This is dividing by 1/2. 2 different problems.
Okay.
See, I'm dividing by 2. That would be dividing by 2 over 1, which means I multiplied by 1/2. All right. This one, I'm dividing by 1/2. But I'm only doing it right here because, and another thing, this is when I'm solving for X right here. Okay. We're not solving for X yet. All right. So I'm going to divide by this -1/2. And when I divide by this -1/2, I'm going to multiply by 2 over here. I'm going to do the same thing, but it's going to be with the opposite because here I had a -2 in front of the parentheses. Here I've got a -1/2. So I'm going to do what you're talking about, Mr. Abdallah. I'm just going to do it with 1/2 instead of 2. See?
Yeah. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Just bear with me. Ms. Hollister, do you have a question? Okay. I thought it just. Okay. So here we've got and we know our y-intercept is 0, -3/5. And we know our vertex is 3/4, comma, -51/160. And unless I'm gonna finish it, I know it's 9 o'clock, but let me finish it for you. It only take me a minute to finish it. -1/2 times x minus 3/4 quantity squared is equal to 51/60. Miss Hollister, are you okay? Sounds like you're going through a tunnel. Okay, so here we go, Mr. Abdallah. I'm going to divide by -1/2. X minus 3/4 quantity squared. Over here, when you divide by -1/2, you multiply by what? -2/1. And that's going to give me -51/80. And now take the square root of both sides. X minus 3/4 equal to I times the square root of 51/80. And then you can finish it out. And I ain't got time to finish it out with you. So you can finish it out. And that's the end of that problem. And you can check with your calculator by just putting this in your calculator and doing a trace and seeing what the X-intercepts and the vertex are and match them up with yours and see if it matches. Okay, let me go to the handy dandy. I'll shut this down and shut the recording down.